So people are mostly focused on the test, hepatitis test, what's the SOP. They forget about how to welcome a patient, how to deliver results to doctors.
But people don't know that even receiving a patient, there is a procedure. So we want things done in an orderly manner by everyone at every point in time. You need to give us a step-by-step action what on what you are expected to do. Don't narrate us a story. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. And we're happy to have you on this 7th episode of LabTalk podcast where we discuss about the laboratory, how we operate, and how we do to improve our services in the laboratory and to impact the career of many professionals around our continent. So thank you very much for honoring our invitation and to discuss about a very important topic on understanding laboratory documentation, SOPs, and documentation in a laboratory. So we're happy to have you join us. How do you feel about the session?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kevin, for giving me this opportunity to share my 1 cent with the lab community worldwide. I'm happy to be part of the LabTalk knowledge sharing to a wider community of laboratory professionals. So I feel great about the session, actually. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you very much. We are so glad to have you join us. It's an immense pleasure to tap from the world of knowledge that we have. 15 years of, about 15 years of experience is not small, it's not small deal. So we'll be happy to drink from that well. So I would like you to introduce yourself to us. Tell us who Madam Nsimen Anna is and what's her journey in the field of medical laboratory sciences.
Okay. Um, Nsimen Anna, as they call me, a laboratory scientist with a BMLS from the University of Boya and an MPH from Boston University, Bamenda. So I have been a laboratory scientist since 2010 that I graduated from the University of Boya, and I started working with the TB reference lab in January 2011 as a laboratory scientist in a small room at Mezan Polyclinic where the lab just started in the region before we finally moved to the permanent location within the Bamenda Regional Hospital premises, still in that 2011. And that's when the lab started expanding its services from just a TB reference lab to now HIV and hepatitis B. So I worked at this laboratory for more than 11 years as a laboratory scientist and as a quality management system expert, with my focus being document control and data management.
Wow.
Yeah, from the lab, I have worked as a QMS mentor, presently working under the Global Health System Solution, Dublin as a regional coordinator for the organization. So as a mentor, the goal is to strengthen public health laboratories, in quality improvement, to see that the services that is rendered to every client everywhere should be of good quality. It should not be just maybe at the regional or reference lab that we expect clients to have good quality results. In strengthening public health laboratory, we want all labs, both peripheral and central level labs, to deliver quality results. There should not be a reason why a client should be referred from one level of the healthcare to another, and there is a repeat of services that were offered at the lower level. No, that should not be. But unfortunately, that had been the case in our setting. You will not also blame the clinicians for doing that because they doubt they will doubt the quality of service that is offered at the peripheral labs. But with the strengthening public health program, I think in the nearest future, this is going to be a thing of the past. We will need to trust the results that come from every level, thanks to the mentorship that is ongoing and the facilities are grasping it.
Thank you very much for that introduction. It's really an amazing journey that you've had from one capacity to the other. It's really nice. And what's very peculiar about your journey that I love that really aligns with the topic of today is you work at a TB reference laboratory as at the documentation section of the lab. That's you're in charge of documentation, handling the information system, right? Data, patients, data that revolves around the laboratory. And that's one thing that we'll be discussing about this topic of understanding SOP and documentation in the laboratory. And I'm so glad that you have this deep knowledge about the subject, and we'll be happy to share from that knowledge and to drink from that well, like I said. So thank you very much for honoring the invitation. We'll just dive straight into the question that we have for today that you are going to be
Okay.
that you're going to be delivering your knowledge to us to learn and to share what you have acquired and amassed over the years. So tell us, in your experience at the TB Reference Laboratory, if I should say, what's an SOP really? What's an SOP in a laboratory?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kevin, for this question. Now, an SOP, as we know, is an abbreviation.
Yeah,
SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedures. Standard Operating Procedures. So the goal of an SOP is that first we should have a standard.
yeah,
There should be a standard that everyone is adhering to. And standard for what? For an operation, right? Whether it's an equipment, whether it's a procedure, whether it's welcoming a client, that's an operating, is you are operating something, and a procedure. Okay. So the goal of an SOP is laying down steps for something to be done in the same order by everyone at any point in time. So when we talk about standard operating procedures, it means if staff A walks into the lab and wants to receive a patient, for example, the steps that he or she should take should be the same that when staff B sits on that chair should be able to do the same. I don't want to use the example of doing a test because we all know that, but people don't know that even receiving a patient, there is a procedure. So we want things done in an orderly manner by everyone at every point in time. So if we don't have these SOPs, it will be difficult to have that, to achieve that goal. Yes, so that is the reason why we need standard operating procedures. We need SOPs at every testing point in the lab. Unless we don't want to achieve the same results, then we'll say that is not necessary. But as far as you, as a lab, you are engaged in quality activities, you want to have your SOPs for everything, for every procedure in place, understood by all that are involved in that particular procedure.
thank you very much for that. That was a very detailed answer, and it's well understood, really. You have to put in place the step-by-step task that you need to do to achieve a particular process or procedure. Thank you very much. And most especially, people always tend to the fact that SOPs are just meant for a test. They don't know that any other activity that happens in the laboratory needs a procedure well written down. So people are mostly focused on the test, hepatitis test, what's the SOP. They forget about how to welcome a patient, how to deliver results to doctors. They're supposed to be an
Exactly, exactly.
established procedure on that, which is what you've just explained. And thank you very much for that. And the next question that I'll ask is this. why not trust in our brain, right? Why not just teaching the stuff to to the staff? Maybe organize a meet.
Our brains.
You organize a meet,
Let me let me
right?
throw this question back to you, Mr. Kevin.
Yeah.
Now, in defining an SOP, you have used like how many words? Can you be able to tell me just now? That's to tell you how feeble our brains, our
Yeah,
memories are, right?
that's
Yeah,
it.
there's a saying that even the faintest pencil is better than the brightest memory. What you pen down what you pen down is very important than what you think that you can remember.
Mm.
That's just a simple truth. And now, even if we are trusting our brain,
Break it.
every individual is different. It's important to have things written. Yeah, even if we say we want to trust our brains, you will not remember the things in the order you want it in your brain. So let's not trust our brain as far as
Yeah. The-
SOPs are concerned. Take the
yeah.
time.
Thank you very much for that. The reason why I was asking that was because I myself in the capacity of a mentor, I've come across some stuff, right? When you tell them maybe, or you are trying to guide them in writing or establishing a procedure, they'll tell you that no, is it not the same hepatitis? Is it not the same this? Is it not the same that? I've mastered the procedure. I was like, my brother, this is your brain that you're trusting too much. Don't mean like that and kill somebody in the hospital here. Because that's what most staff tend to do, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's always better to pen it down. And maybe at the point you get yourself
That's the
confused,
truth.
you can just simply refer yourself back to that particular document and ensure that what you are doing on the bench is actually what is reflected in the document. So I just had to bring that up and share with the public. It's a very important point. And that simply leads us to our next question on how to develop an SOP, right? How should an SOP be developed in the laboratory? And what are the steps in which an SOP should be developed and implemented in the facility? I don't know if you got my question.
Sorry, I did not get the follow-up question.
All right. My,
No,
my
I
my
didn't.
question is, how can a laboratory develop an SOP? What are the steps involved in developing an SOP? And how do they implement that in the facility?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kevin. Yeah, what you explained as your experience is what we are actually going through as mentors that we are. It's difficult. It's really difficult to convince the staff to see why they need an SOP. Now, this issue of is it not the same procedure I already have it in my mind is what cause at times we have wrong results. Because even when the kit change, or when the manufacturer changes something, they will not know because
Yeah.
that idea or no, is it not the same hepatitis B?
Mhm.
Forgetting that different manufacturers may even have different procedures. So, but once they just say that is it not hepatitis B, as it was in the beginning, is now and
So
ever
shall it
shall
be?
be. That's a mentality.
Yeah. Uh,
But
and
it's important to
yeah.
keep updating. Yeah, that's the reason why we need SOPs because as guidelines for SOP, it needs constant updating. Yes, so that's one of the reasons why we need to have SOPs written because once you know that it's time for revision, you must do the revision so that you keep the knowledge current. Now, coming to the follow-up questions, there are steps involved in writing an SOP. The first thing is the title of the SOP. What are you writing on? We need to know, or we need to be able to expect what we need to see in this SOP that you're writing on. If I just pick a piece of paper and there's nothing on it, nothing will intrigue me to even read it right. So give me a title. Let me know what you are writing on. Okay. So an example of a title, procedure standard operating procedure for the reception of clients. It's strange. I know many people will be surprised.
It's
Do we
really
need
true.
an SOP for reception of clients?
And seriously, it's actually strange
Yeah,
to most
it's
people.
strange, but it's very important. It's
Mhm.
not every client that you receive the same way.
Mhm.
Mm. A client that is coming into maybe a finger prick and somebody that you expect to go and produce urine.
Mhm.
It's not the same procedure, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, so it's important. So when somebody sees that title, they already have an idea, or maybe you give them a clue of what you want to talk about.
Mm.
Now, from the title of the procedure, you now move to the test summary. If it's a test, okay, you want to give us a summary of what you want to discuss detailing in that procedure. And from the test summary, let's have a principle. This is your test procedure that you want to tell us on what is it built on. We let's know the principle behind what you want to discuss. And this is another issue we are facing on this side. No, I already have an SOP for RODT, MRODT. Why do you still want me to have an SOP for microscopy, for malaria microscopy? But now we want to look at the principles. It's true that the endpoint is want to know if this client is positive or negative for malaria, but there are two different principles. Rapid test is totally different principle from microscopy. So that is why we need to know the principle on which your SOP is built on. And from the principle, let's know the samples that are needed. Let's know the samples that are needed and how to treat these samples. There are different types of samples that we need in the lab. So tell us for this particular procedure, are we going to be using early morning urine? Are we going to be using midstream urine? Are we going to be using whole blood? Are we going to be using plasma or serum? And at what condition should they be stored? Is it room temperature? Will it not affect the test result? Is it frozen plasma? Is it refrigerated? So all of those things is important for us to know because those are the things that will lead to us having accurate results. It's not just collecting the sample. Let's know at what condition we are supposed to keep the samples. Now, quality control is part of your SOP. Yeah, many people want to argue this, but it's part and parcel of your SOP because this is what has made some of our facilities don't do quality control because they don't think that is part and parcel of the procedure. We need to know how you control the reagents you're using. So it should be included as part of your SOP because first, the quality control is supposed to be processed the same way that you process your samples. So it has to be incorporated in your SOP so that a new staff that is coming in will be able to know what they are expected to use as quality control and what results they are expected. Yeah. And then calibration, this does not apply to all procedures. There are some that you don't need calibration, but for those that need calibration, like biochemistry, you want to also include it in your SOP. Now, the procedure itself, you need to give us a step-by-step action verbs, action words on what you are expected to do. Don't narrate us a story. Step one, this
Yeah.
is what I am doing. Yes. Don't just go and be writing a long history. No, let it be step by step, starting from the very first step to the last step. Your procedures will actually give a step by step in the basic, understandable language that even somebody that is not of the lab background can be able to follow that procedure and be able to realize that test. Don't go and be using big terms that someone will need a dictionary to understand what is written there. The basic language possible that can communicate that message is what we need in our SOPs because we want that it should be understood by everyone, right? Use simple language that give you directly what you are expected to do. Yeah, so that is it for the procedure. And then now we move to reporting of the results. Okay, in reporting of the results, what do we expect to see as the results? All right, let me take an example for serology. Okay, we expect to see either a reactive or a non-reactive or maybe an invalid. So we want to see that, yeah, so that the person doing the procedure, if at the end you are seeing something else, you should ask yourself, but hey,
Yeah.
what is happening?
You have to question
Exactly.
yourself.
And you have to question yourself. And of course, you want to put in place some caution. Many manufacturers, they always include this. What are you supposed to do? What are you not supposed to do to be able to impact your result?
Mhm.
And We end with what? References.
Yeah.
That knowledge you're using to write that SOP came from somewhere. It's not your knowledge. So it's always good to acknowledge where, where you got that knowledge from. It's very important. Now, the last part of the SOP is reading and understanding. You want your staff or your colleagues to acknowledge that they have read and understood that SOP. So they must be where they have to acknowledge. So there is always a table at the end of the SOP that all those who have read and understood the SOP should sign. I'm laying emphasis of read and understood. Yes, because
Okay.
some people will just come you and just be signing everything
That's
without reading or without understanding. Reading is one thing, understanding is another. So I always tell people that take your time, read. If there are questions, you ask them and get clarified before you pen down your signature. Okay, understand what you're signing. Don't just sign because there's a page there for signing. Read and understand what you're signing and be sure that you can be able to implement all what you have read. Okay, so that is that for a procedure for a test. Some of the subheadings that I've listed may not be applicable when it's a process, like example, receiving a client. Okay, we don't expect to have a result when we are receiving a client. So some of those subheadings are not applicable when it's for a process. Okay, and also when it's an equipment, there are some steps that will not also be applicable because in the lab we have SOPs for equipment too. So yeah, for equipment, there may be some more points that I didn't list here, and there may be some that will not also be applicable. But what I listed is for a procedure, for a test procedure. We need to see all of this listed.
Thank you very much for that question. And there's the last part of the question concerning implementation of the SOP, right? After we have developed
Thank you.
SOP, yes, this is the SOP now on the table. How do you get into the laboratory and implement what is written on it?
Now, if you heard before concluded, I laid emphasis of reading and understanding.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, when you write the SOP and you don't make it accessible to those who are supposed to use it, then you've done nothing. You've done nothing. So it's important that when you write, communicate with the team, and the communication entails what? You can ask the people to read and ask questions when necessary and get clarification, or as a team, you go through what has been written and so that you can be sure that it will be implemented. That's why I was laying emphasis on reading, put your signature that you have read and understood that procedure. It means everything in that procedure is binding to you and you are obliged to implement it. Yeah, so it's important that before signing that you have read and understood, whether as a team or as an individual, you are sure that you can be able to implement all what is in that document. Another part of implementation is, like I said, SOPs are living documents, they are updated.
Mhm.
So when you update the SOP, you are supposed to ensure that it is the current version that is in circulation to do. I should not have two versions of the same SOP in circulation. At that time, you will not blame any staff for implementing the wrong stuff. So once there is an update, you need to withdraw the old version and make sure that it is a current version that is available.
All right. Thank you very much for the answers. They are very elaborate points. And we'll just go to the next question about mistakes when it comes to documentation generally in the laboratory, not just about the SOPs, but documentation generally in the laboratory. What are some mistakes that most laboratory professionals make when it comes to documentation in the laboratory, be it at the level of the reception, be it on the bench, be it after the analysis of a test and all of that? What are some of those mistakes that professionals make in the laboratory?
The first and the most common mistake is I will write later. I will write it later. And later becomes later, and later
Mhm.
finally is never written.
Yeah.
So what I always tell people is that what pen down this thing, you have not done it. What you have not documented, it is not done. Let me not try to tell you that, no, I did it though, I just did not document. You have not done it. You have not done it. The lab does not work on assumption.
Yeah.
Like we work on evidence. We work be able to see. Why not touch and even feel? Okay. So there's always that tendency of I want to do it, I will later. No. As far as documentation is concerned, do it immediately. Do it immediately. Imagine you collect samples and keep that our label later, or you use a tube to collect a sample without labeling collection, and you end up done without labeling that sample. That's already a big error, because at the end of the day, you'll be assuming anymore. Okay, you are not sure. So I always tell people that document as you go. Write it down as you go. There is no point. It's better you write it and then come back and cancel it later. But don't say that I have it in my head, I'll do it later. No, it's not right, because you must come out with errors.
Mm.
And um, so even at the level of reception, this one cuts across the whole app. It cuts across the whole app. People want, I'll write it later. No, take your time and document what you have to document. I saw a notice in one lab that the lab does not work under pressure. And I want to agree, because at times too, pressure from clients can make somebody to want to attend to many people at the same time, and you start cutting corners. That is why I'll still come back to the point that it is important to have standard operating procedures at every point in time. Because there is nowhere on an SOP that will say that write later or document later. It already tell you that from this step to this step. If from step 1 to step 2, you are supposed to document, the SOP will tell you that document. And if you are following it as it is written, you definitely want to document it. Another error is cancellation. Yeah, we are human beings, right? We are human beings,
Yeah.
and we are liable to make errors. But when you make the error, how you correct it is where I always have a problem. Somebody will let me first of all sound this. Correcting fluids are not allowed in the laboratory. Correcting fluids are not allowed in the laboratory. Let's not use correcting fluid to correct our mistakes in the lab. Lab errors are not hidden. Lab errors are not supposed to be hidden, right? So when you do a mistake in the lab, you are supposed to correct in a way that the error should still be visible. Okay, don't take a pen and you're or painting, let me put it that way, or coloring something that they cannot see beneath. No, when you do an error, own that cancellation. What I mean owning it is that, or you sign or you initials on it with a date to show that you are accepting that I did this cancellation on this date. Okay. I know that some people will be angry at me for emphasizing that correcting fluid is not needed in the lab. It's
That's a big
not a
fight.
lab tool.
That's a big fight in the laboratory.
Let me put it that way. Yeah, when you have an error in the lab, it's a room for allow correcting fluids in the lab. And for those who want to cut corners, that's where we can easily have errors. And people that want to cut corners in things that they do, no, follow the standard the way it's done by your facility,
Mm.
and you avoid some of these errors.
Thank you very much. You have mentioned all your points, right? You know your points, right? So we have
Yes.
gotten to the last, I think, last session of of the last question of our session. I want you to give us a keynote, right? A keynote for a laboratory professional and a student. I believe I saw pictures online of students defending their project. I believe this is almost a season of graduation. So I want you to give us a keynote for a student who will be graduating in December. What is that one thing you tell that student who is getting into the laboratory field and the career?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Um, for a newly graduate who will be getting into the lab, what I want to tell them is that go into the lab as open-minded as possible. Yeah. What you studied in school is just to give you a background knowledge. The real work starts after school.
Yeah,
Yeah, real work starts after school. And if you are not open, you will have difficulties. Just have an open mind and be willing to learn. Be
mhm,
very open to learn. Those who have been on the field have the field experience. They can easily put you through what you are supposed to know. But if you don't have that open mind to learn, I'm sorry, people are first of all already overburdened with the work that they have. They will not have time to teach somebody who is not willing to learn. So
yeah,
have an open mind. Yes, and have a notebook. I still insist that the faintest ink is more important than a good memory. Yes, have your notebook, write things down. Yeah, though you have people share experiences with you, write important things down. It will help you tomorrow in your career. And then I always say a fresh eye is always good to criticize objectively. You coming new, you can see some things that can help that facility or that laboratory improve. Yes, approach those who have been there and make your suggestions. There is always room for improvement in the laboratory. There is always room for improvement, and it can come from anywhere. It can come from whoever. And I always tell the new people that are coming that you should bring in a lot of improvement. Yeah, when you come in and the procedure's already there, you can bring in innovative ways to improve. You are in school now, and technology is evolving. Yeah, those who have been there before during their own time is not what is there now. So with the fresh knowledge you're bringing from school, you can also help to improve the lab. But then be humble. Don't come and want to impose on those who have been there. The manner of approach matters. Yeah, you may have good knowledge, but the way of presenting it may make people not want to listen to you. So it's very important. Have an open mind. Just be free spirited. You will learn and people will listen to you. So have an open mind and keep records. It's very important. Don't say your memory will fail you. Document things, have a record of what you think is important for you. If I tell people that I still have my books that I started working, they may be surprised. Unconsciously, then I did not even understand what QMS was, but I was just keeping my notes and it still helped me. At times I still make reference to them. So it's very important. Thank you.
thank you very much for that keynote, which is so important. I think our previous guest mentioned a similar point, being open to learn, right? If you're not open to learn truly, you will not, how will I say, you will not enjoy the profession. Let me put it that way.
Exactly.
You are just going to be
Exactly.
stuck in one place. But why, if you're open to learn, you get a lot of experience, things that they don't commonly share with students, maybe younger professional. You get to know them as soon as possible because you are willing to learn. I think that's one thing that
Exactly.
I took advantage of while I was on internship at the regional hospital. I was always there to learn, be it at night. In fact, what was I even doing with my time? You are there to learn. Why not? Why not open yourself to the learning and get something meaningful from your career? Because it's always common with students, especially recent graduates. They just graduated from school. They'll say they have all the knowledge in the world. Meanwhile, that's not so. There's always this shock. The knowledge, the theory that you've learned in school and the practice on the bench, right? It's always different. But being open to learn, you easily close that gap as soon as you can. So thank you very much for that point and that keynote. And with that said, I will say thank you very much for honoring our invitation. And we'd love to have you on another episode to discuss other topics about the laboratory. And thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us on this session. So thank you very much. And we hope to have you
Thank
soon.
you.
Thank you too.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kevin. It was
All
my
right.
pleasure. I hope what I've been able to share will go a long way to improve on our profession. It's very important, yeah, that we send out this information to change the narratives, actually. So I'm always here. I'm willing anytime to share my own small sense to see that we keep the lab profession improving. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed this session and I look forward to another session with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.